Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank Cindy for giving me the opportunity to come up here. It seems like it's been a great show, but I have to say she didn't do me any favors putting me behind such great speakers this morning. Following up the legends and Gordon, I don't have as many bells and whistles in my presentation, so hopefully I'll keep you awake, entertained, and share some good information and be half as good as the legend and Gordon were. First thing I'd like to do is share a personal anecdote. The number one question I've gotten over the years from members, others in the local search space is how the heck did you start recruiting in this industry? I never really have shared the backstory, so I thought I'd give it to you because it relates a lot to some of the themes in the presentation. It was the mid-90s, working in Chicago. I had decided I was going to make a go of it in the media space, being a media-based recruiter. Worked diligently to develop a cadre of Midwestern-based ad agencies, publishing firms, radio stations, TV stations, and things were going pretty well for a guy just out of school. Got distracted, though. This was the height of the dot-com boom. And like everybody else, I saw that shiny light, and I said, this is my destiny. You know, forget the media thing. I'm going to work with some of the biggest brands in America. And I did. You know, some of my clients included companies that are the gold standard today. Pets.com, Webvan.com, and where would anybody be without drcoop.com? So, you know, I took my eyes off the prize, and I was there. For a brief moment in time, I was in the middle of placing people all across the country with the hottest companies out there. And one day I woke up in the late 90s, and all of a sudden, no one was hiring in that space. I went to work one day, I had no searches to work on, no candidates to call. I was on the verge of tears. And all of a sudden I was going through my client base, and there were two companies that remained solid. And those companies were Ketchum Directory Advertising and Dontech. And all of a sudden a light bulb went off in my head that I had been distracted by the shiny light instead of what really mattered, which was working with companies that provided valuable services and attracted and retained the right types of people. So I remember coming into my office on a Saturday, started to research the industry more, really took an elevated approach to making this my calling, and three gentlemen were invaluable in giving me the guidance in terms of, you know, really showing me where I needed to go and where the bodies were buried in this industry. Ken Clark, who was with the Yellow Pages Association at the time, you know, Larry, the long-term president of ADP, and John Kelsey. All three of those gentlemen said, look, there's a void here. We've got companies that have a tremendous story to tell, and we need a recruiting firm that's going to go out there and attract the right people to the industry. So lo and behold, I focused in the late 90s and, you know, really dug in and started to make a go of it. And at the same time, another friend of mine who was a recruiter said, no. What do you want to do with the Yellow Pages industry and local search? What's that? I've got something that's even better. So I listened to his pitch, and I decided not to go with his market, and I made the right decision. And that market that he was going after was Y2K conversion specialists. So I think in the long term, I think in the long term I've picked the right industry. And what I'd like to do today is give you some insights into what your employees are talking about, maybe with you, maybe not with you, what some of the trend lines are, and hopefully give you a blueprint in terms of how to attract the right sales and sales leadership professionals. So I won't bore you with all of our biography, but we've been doing this a long time. We place on average each year a couple hundred salespeople, 100 sales managers, directors, enterprise sales, national sales, and we do it from coast to coast. We do it with quote unquote terrestrial media companies, directory, newspaper, radio, television, as well as pure plays and blended companies. And you know, doing it this long, you know, people tell us things. So my goal today is to share some of those insights with you. Your best assets. And I firmly believe that your sales force is your best asset. I'm kind of a World War II buff, and sometime around a crucial point in the later stages of World War II, Douglas MacArthur, the great general, needed a mission accomplished at its highest level, and the famous quote, give me an Army football player. Well, for me over the years, it's been get me a Yellow Pages sales professional. There's been dozens of companies that have tried to cannibalize your sales force and poach them for their own endeavors, and they know what they're getting. They're getting great training, they're getting great support, they're getting reps that are passionate, they're getting folks that go out there and contact small and medium businesses on a daily basis and establish long-term relationships. Your reps have always been on the radar screen of other companies and remain so today, and hopefully I'll give you some strategies in terms of putting up some barriers to keeping those companies away. And as the business has changed and your reps are selling more products and have more tools in their basket, they become even more valuable. So pre-2010, your reps were staying put for the most part. Yes, you would have the churn that you always do, but you're able to keep your really good reps. And then, much as I was captivated in the mid-90s by the quote-unquote bright light, your reps were captivated by the bright light of Reach Local, Groupon, Living Social, and a slew of other brand name companies. These companies really were upping the bar in terms of compensation. I remember we placed someone at Groupon in Seattle, local market sales at an $80,000 base salary. As someone who had placed Yellow Pages people just a decade ago at $18,000 base salaries, I found this mind-boggling. Was there long-term sustainability in that type of a hiring trend? No, of course not. What goes up must come down. But they were able to successfully, over a 3-year period, capture some folks that I'm sure most of you would rather have retained. Besides the base salary, they threw equity out there, bring your dog to work, foosball tables, whatever else it took, As traditionalists, I'm sure some of it you find offensive, but to the millennials, great. I get to play foosball and maybe make 3 calls in a day and get an 80 grand base salary. Who's not going to sign up for that? The good news is that it's not sustainable. Reach Local, Groupon, Living Social, they're all struggling. We see their financials every quarter, and I can tell you I have more resumes sitting in my inbox on a daily basis from there than I have people clamoring to go there. Reach Local particularly, which I think not just from a talent point of view, but from a client retention point of view, I hear the horror stories. Their customer base is really unhappy with the value that they're getting with the spend. And people may tell you, yes, I need a good base salary and I need a strong overall compensation package, but it comes back to value. People want to sell something that's valuable to their customers. They want to feel good at the end of the day that they're providing a product or service that is going to better their customers as well as put money in their pocket. And for some of these companies, the value they're providing, your customer base, isn't as strong as the value that you all have provided over the years. And I think some of those folks who have gone over to the other side are more than willing to listen to opportunities back on this side of the fence. Another big trend that we've noticed is that these companies built up large outside sales forces in 2010. Reach Local had reps in every market, managers in every market. If you were an experienced manager, you could go over to Reach Local in just about any MSA in the country. Yodel was doing something very similar. A little earlier, they got out of that and started building inside sales campuses, and now Reach Local has followed suit. Very few of these companies are building unique outside sales forces today, so those people have to go somewhere. So the good news is these companies have seen their time in the sun, they've scaled back considerably, and they're not going to be competing as heavily for the local market sales talent that you all covet so much. Their reputation for churn as a place to work is also significant. The Yellow Pages has always been known as a place that values its own homegrown people. People I know in this industry who didn't even go to college and are VPs and presidents of major companies with hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue. What other industry in America can tell that story? And it's certainly not with private equity-backed companies in the pure digital space where they look for pedigree sometimes more than quality of character and quality of experience. There is more of a focus, though, among these companies on national sales and enterprise sales. They've decided that the cost of customer acquisition is too great to go at a grassroots local market level. For them, it makes sense to hire one $100,000 person who's going to go after that 50-location restaurant, as opposed to hiring 5 sales reps at $50,000, $60,000 who'll bring in 1 and 2 location restaurants across 5 cities. So once again, that's going to create an opportunity for you to attract some folks that maybe you couldn't have 2 or 3 years ago. And as I said, we don't see a heck of a lot of new pure plays that are going the outside sales market route. So that is a good news for this crew as well. Who is hiring? 2014 has been kind of a crazy year. Came into it, mixed expectations. The economy's still bumping along the bottom of the ocean, some good points, some bad points. And all of a sudden things have gotten busy for us. But it's not with the companies that one would expect. It's not the pure play mobile and digital companies. It's newspaper, it's radio, it's TV, it's your competitors in the true traditional local market space that are getting more aggressive. Some are building pure play digital teams, they're hiring managers, they're hiring reps to do digital only. Some are blending. What we're seeing in a lot of places is that they're doing what I'll call 3-legged sales. They're having their reps that are selling digital go out with their core reps and selling to that automotive customer that was mentioned earlier in kind of a blended sale, so that they're not cannibalizing the revenue as much. They're going together and trying to find a solution set that puts money in the pocket of both reps and ultimately increases the ad spend for the company overall. So this year versus 2013 has been, I'd say, 30–40% up for us, and I would assume across the industry as well. Less leaders, though. That's a very interesting thing. We've seen a lot of brick and mortar offices close with our customers, not just in this room, but across all the other segments of the industry that I've pointed out. And with that, we're seeing less regional VP of sales searches, less VP of sales searches, less managers. Reps are expected to do so much more. Things have always been about selling managers among the ADP audience. We can talk about the YPA folks and our perceptions of them, but they were more, kind of back office paperwork, and your managers were out there on a daily basis selling with your reps and helping them close business. And I think now the expectations across the board, regardless of which part of the media, is very similar. That manager is going to have 10, 12, 14 sales reps, which could be spread out over 3 cities. It's a big job. There's a lot of pressure on these folks, and there's less seats at the table, and I think everybody here knows that and are able to be a little bit pickier than maybe 3–4 years ago, where there was more competition for those folks. We also see a big uptick in inside sales. As I mentioned, some of your competitors on the pure play side are doing more of an inside-only campus environment, and we are seeing some traditional media companies go that way as well, especially when we're going towards more second-tier, third-tier markets. The cost of customer acquisition for them seems to point to more of an inside model, which of course means losing that outside handheld touch with the customers in those markets. But for now, that's a trend that we see growing. So this is the important part, what your reps are saying. You always think you know what your kids are telling you. And then you turn around and you see on Facebook that they're posting something completely different, or they're talking to their friends and you hear them on the phone, and it's nothing like the conversation that they've had with you. And we get a lot of those conversations. Your reps and managers tell us things that oftentimes they're not going to tell you. Through a survey that we did last year and some updates that we did this year, they're kind of saturated on the product side. There's no more room in their toolkit for more products. There's so much to learn already and sell already in a very short period of time. When they go into that restaurant owner and they've got 10 minutes before that restaurant owner is meeting with the Cisco rep, they don't have room for that 20th product in their bundle for them to sell successfully. When we talk about satisfaction of your sales team, it seems that the folks who are able to concentrate only on digital, they appear to have a higher overall satisfaction rate than the blended reps do or the traditional core product reps do. There's mitigating factors to that, whether they feel that their skill set is going to translate down the road at a higher level, or they just feel more comfort selling those products. I'm not entirely sure, but their Q scores across the board are a bit higher. And then another thing is your reps go out there and they've got to sell a blended product mix. They tell us that at the end of the day, there's 2 paths that they go by. And we heard this earlier in the Legend speech. People either default to one of 2 things according to our experience. One, what they feel comfortable with. I know print. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to sell print. I have 10 minutes. I'm going to get the renewal. I'm going to try and get a bigger spend. And that's really what I'm going to focus in on. Or I've got management that's telling me if I go sell this new bell and whistle, I'm going to get an iPad. I'm going to get a higher commission rate. I'm going to do that. So at the end of the day, your reps are navigating to one of 2 things. Either it's the rep that goes to what's their comfort level or what the higher price tag is attached to. Finding that rep that could go in there and really sell a balanced product mix and think about the customer's needs and sell a unique solution that benefits them, that's a tough person to find. There's very few people that I've encountered that can take more of a holistic approach and kind of pull out their own personal preferences and their own financial motivations at the end of the day. And the biggest fear is no surprise, job security. Whether it's in this space or whether it's in a traditional media company or whether it's with a pure play digital mobile company that's worried about getting its next round of funding, fears of job security are abundant. And if you have a good story to tell in terms of revenue, profitability, long-term security, that may get you the right person in the door even if you're paying less on a base salary than your competitor. They're also telling us that while they don't necessarily understand it, the SMBs are becoming more and more engaged in terms of social. They want to learn about attracting people through the methods that they're using, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, what have you. They don't quite get how it translates into customers in the door, but the reps are telling us that there's more and more interest among their audience in terms of becoming more engaged in that. Your reps, it's no secret. People see that long term, there's more and more down the road that's going to be in digital and mobile. There is a desire, if they're in a blended sale or in a traditional sale, to move towards a company that's going to offer them a chance to keep their skill set. And equity is not a big driver anymore. I mean, if I talk to a candidate about 5,000 shares at a pre-IPO company, I get the hand. They don't really care anymore. They don't see that that's going to pay off for them long term. They're worried about their car payments, their mortgage payments, paying for their kids' braces. They don't really care that this private equity company is throwing money in and there's a 5% chance that there's going to be a sale that's going to put $100,000 in their pocket. They are more concerned about making money and putting money in their pockets and the mouths of their kids today than any term of long-term driver on equity. To that point, I can't tell you how many local market reps will talk to me about funding, private equity companies, the reputations that they have, the financials of living social today versus 2 years ago, what companies they're publicly traded, what they're doing, what PE ratios are. I mean, these are people who 5 years ago, quite candidly, wouldn't have had those conversations with me. I think folks take their job search so much more seriously now because there's a fear out there, a palpable fear in terms of making a choice, really, and whether it's going to be a successful choice for them. So the more you can educate your interviewees in terms of what your company has to offer financially, in terms of stability, growth, security, you're going to get the folks that you want in the door more and more. That shouldn't be there. I went backwards. That's my bad. Okay, how do we hire a top rep? This is the $1 million question. You have a need in Albuquerque, New Mexico. You need to hire a rep. What am I going to do? And we talk to folks about this. Most don't really use job boards the way they did anymore. Not to date myself, but being in my early 40s, I remember going in Chicago, we'd put the ad in the Tribune. I'd walk in and the fax machine would be humming with hundreds and hundreds of resumes. After that, Monster, Career Builder, same thing. You'd post an ad and you'd get 100 responses. Some of them are really good people. It was amazing. It was like post, get candidates. It was a very nice system. Today, things don't operate like that. We live in a fragmented marketplace. Much as we were talking about earlier about how there's hundreds and hundreds of choices for companies to advertise in, the same thing exists in the employment space. There's a million different ways for people to find a job. So how do you attract those people then? If they're not going on job boards, they're not going on newspapers, I will say if you're not robustly using LinkedIn and social media, particularly LinkedIn, if you're not on LinkedIn every single day trying to reach out to somebody who's in your marketplace, you're missing an opportunity, because that's where you're going to find your most wired and digitally savvy candidates. You're going to find folks who aren't necessarily looking for a job, but might be engaged in having a conversation with you. And you're not going to find that person who was laid off necessarily, who's going to respond to every ad in town, where you're going to get the bottom 20% of someone else's sales force. It becomes more of a proactive way of hiring. You have to market your company, and I have to say LinkedIn is the #1 way for you to do that in a cost-effective manner. Top candidates, things haven't changed. The good people, word gets around. The top 10% of your competitor's sales force is still getting calls from 5 or 6 people like me on a weekly, monthly basis. There's no change in that. And you're still going to compete for those people, and you're going to win some battles and you're going to lose some. So don't be distracted by the overall unemployment rate or the percentage of people who are actually working in America. The folks that you want to attract, top-level salespeople, it's a golden time for them. Base salary does matter. Like I said earlier, equity is not as much of a driver. Yes, you have a great commission rate. You're willing to pay 20, 30% on new business and X% on renewals, but you're not going to be able to attract time and time again a proven salesperson who's on a $50,000 base salary over at the newspaper for a straight commission package. So you have to maybe get creative. I know we try and do one size fits all so that we don't have conversations on the floor. I got paid this and you get paid that. But sometimes you have to make exceptions for exceptional people, and it's going to be a tough thing if you don't put a reasonable base salary out there. And for me, what I've encountered, a reasonable base salary, not in a New York, not in a San Francisco, not in an LA, for a proven outside salesperson, larger market, probably 45, 50,000, smaller market, 35, 40,000. That's probably right in the midpoint of what you're going to need to do to attract that person. They want to sell cutting-edge products. I know everyone here is adopting new products, new technologies. We're making our money still on traditional media. But it's a bridge. Someone said that earlier. You're going to get that 25, 26-year-old person who's interested in selling something that can take her throughout her career, sell that it's a bridge. We make our money on traditional, but we're a multimedia company that's providing a valuable solution to small and medium businesses. That's something compelling. So you might have some of the younger audience out there that's not entirely familiar with your product on a daily basis. So you have to educate them on where your business is going. They want to sell something that they're going to be able to get a recruiting call from a mobile company, from a Facebook, from a Google, whoever down the road if they're a top producer, and you have to educate them on how your products can get them that direction if you can't hold on to them for the rest of their career. If you can't give them that, talk about higher level sales. I can't tell you how many local market salespeople get burned out, knocking on doors, working the referral networks, Chamber of Commerce meetings, and they want to get into nationals, they want to get into enterprise, they want to sell multi-location franchise deals. As your business changes and evolves and there's more opportunities for people on your staff to sell that type of business, I would emphasize that as a selling point during the recruiting process. If you come in today and you do local market sales successfully for us, you'll have the opportunity to move into enterprise or national or regionals or channel or partnerships or business development or something completely different that'll elevate your skill set. That'll win you a lot of candidates' hearts and get you a lot of the right folks on your team. Define commission schedules. As I heard earlier, there's nothing worse than changing your commission plan midstream. We get calls from people who are in the middle of a canvas, middle of a program, and their commission has been flattened or changed, or their base salary has been reduced or increased, but their commission rate's been changed, and there's games that are being played. Nothing alienates your sales force faster than doing that. So continuity is important. Even if you have to make some adjustments on getting the right people in on a base salary, great, keep a defined commission schedule for everybody throughout the campaign, and don't make changes midpoint. Ability to fulfill, that's become a bigger issue as more products are put into the bundle. I'm selling something, but I can't fulfill the client's expectations. Not to pick on Reach Local again, but they're not here, so I can. I can't tell you how many reps out of there are disheartened, and they're great reps who really care about small and medium businesses and providing compelling solutions. And they go to market, and then they get a call 2 weeks later, and the customer is saying, you've upcharged me 60%, and I'm not getting the clicks you promised, and the traffic I'm getting is faulty. And they feel like that they're a used car salesman selling a bad car. I mean, they don't want that. There are things beyond compensation that matter to your sales force, and making sure that you have a great story to tell in terms of fulfilling the expectation of your advertisers is as important as anything, and your sales reps will appreciate it. And if you have that story to tell, like I said, you can compete with the big guys for the right people, even if you don't have the same compensation to offer. Winning management teams are also a big draw. Big personalities sell. If you're a great leader, I'd want to go to work for you. If you're a 27-year-old kid who's looking to find someone who can shape and mentor their career, I know this room's filled with people like that. There's people who can tell me stories about people that shaped and mentored them throughout their career and got them to this point. That matters. Maybe in other companies where you have a virtual vice president of sales who has 20 reps spread out over 18 markets, they're not getting that touch point. They're not getting that love that they need. They're not getting that nurturing. We can talk about millennials a little bit in terms of what they need in terms of management style, and it relates well to that. They want pats on the back. They want that attaboys, attagirls. They want to know that they're doing well on a daily, weekly basis. And if you're that type of leader that can offer that, that's going to be a big draw for you as well. What you can do to build your bench. We're getting to the home stretch here. This is another thing that you can do. Internal referral programs. Typical recruiter is going to charge you for a sales rep $5,000, $6,000 a hire. Offer $4,000 to your existing team. They know people. They know good people. Good salespeople know good people. You have to have a defined program and drive that on a daily, weekly basis. Offer a contest just for number of leads. Offer someone an iPad if they send in 5 qualified candidates, even if you don't hire them, just to encourage that kind of candidate flow. Your best people will come from your referrals. I shouldn't tell you this, they should all come from me, but in reality, I ask for referrals every day, and a lot of my customers don't. So if you're doing that, you're taking food out of my children's mouth, but it'll help your business. So something else that you could do that very few companies do is have open houses. And this could be a brick and mortar open house where you put an ad in some sort of a weekly newspaper or in an alternative newspaper on Facebook, or use any way to attract the younger audience or back to work moms and dads, and get them to come into your office, get them to come into your company, get them to meet different people, and maybe not just salespeople, get them to meet someone in marketing or someone in product who's going to talk about new products that you're putting out. That sells. And if you can't do that in a brick and mortar environment, set up a web conference, set up a Skype, set up just a call-in number where your VP of sales can get on the phone with 10 random strangers in 5 cities and talk through your value proposition. Maybe you'll get one hire out of that, but if you get one strong salesperson a month from doing that, your ROI is off the charts. How much money does it cost to do that? Very little. It's just a time opportunity cost, but it's something that very few companies in general do. So I would encourage you to do that. And the millennial pool. I mean, these people are just some great people. I'm a Gen Xer, so I don't really like them. They operate in a completely different style point. They're difficult to find, they're difficult to manage, they're difficult to motivate, but you need them. You need younger people on your sales force to keep the business going. And they don't find information the same way that I do or the same way that most of this audience does. There are probably 20 different social media platforms that I'm not even aware of that they're on today, and you have to find somebody on your team that can devise a strategy to get to these people. The days where we could put ads out there, we could use TV, radio, newspaper, Monster, Career Builder, you're going to skew 35 and up all day long on those platforms. If you want to get the 35 and under audience, yes, you should do university recruiting, you should develop intern programs, you should do things at a grassroots level, but once they get out of school, you're going to have to use some of these social networks in a much more engaged fashion if you're going to hope to attract the right audience. YouTube videos, you should have 10, 20, 30 videos up on a library talking about whatever, talking about your product, talking about your customers, having testimonials, having reps talk about how great you are and how they're so excited they're going to go on this trip to the Caribbean next year. The more of that you have builds your social media program, and also it's a touch point. If I'm a job seeker and I don't know anything about your company, I go to your website, I read about your company, I go to Glassdoor, I see what the reviews are, and then after that, that's probably pretty much it. But if I go to YouTube and there's 10 videos with your CEO talking about how excited she is about where the company's going in the next 2 years, I want to apply to that company. I want to become a part of that company. And there's very few companies that are engaged in doing that type of strategy. To my earlier point, interns, cheap labor. It's great. I know the rules have changed a little bit under the current administration where you may actually have to pay them something, but they're still cheap labor. And if you're nice to them and they get a taste for the business, you'll have your sales force when they come out of school. And even work share programs. We become so cookie cutter in terms of the profiles and the hours and the responsibilities. I can't tell you how many back to work moms and dads I know that would love a job, that would love to do sales for 20 hours a week, but they can't do 40 or 50 hours a week. But you could find 2 of them and you could make one great salesperson. And these are people who have been in software sales, pharmaceutical sales, some very sophisticated sales training and methodologies that they've experienced, and they're not necessarily welcome in their business. Find a home for them. I mean, these are great people that would be great representatives of your company in the marketplace. And if you want to find me on Twitter, it's Media Recruiter, and you can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to take any questions. Or you could let me off the hook and I get off the stage. No. Question? Oh.
I'll just go ahead and ask it. The industry has a real challenge in that we're sort of viewed as old school. How do you make the industry exciting and sexy to possible recruiters when they think it's old school or it's not as exciting as the pure plays that you're talking about?
Well, I mean, there's a certain percentage of the audience you're never going to attract. He asked how we take the perception that we're an old line industry and make it attractive in the marketplace. So, there's a portion of the audience that you're just never going to attract. They're going to go for the shiny light. They're going to make the mistakes I did earlier in my career. But to some of the things I said earlier, not everybody's looking for the new flashy thing. Continuity sells. Stability sells, a base salary sells, good leadership sells, providing value for customer sells. I think it's the message. and using different things to get that message out there. If you use some of the things that I mentioned here that are relatively cheap and just broadcast on a more frequent basis and really sell your story, you know, you don't have to be the flashiest company on the block to get some really good people. That was easy. Anybody? 3? Oh.
Let me drill in on the millennium thing again, because that's obviously been the toughest group to attract. Is it money, or is it the other things all added up? I mean, if you show them that they can make 50 grand coming out of college, whatever that number is, does that outweigh, you know, the foosball table, the free iPad and all the other stuff that kind of goes around it?
Now, I don't want to generalize, because there are some great kids that come out, that work their way through school, that are hard drivers, that want to make a great living, that are money motivated. But as a general rule, as a percentage, they're not always motivated by that. They're motivated by intrinsic things, quality of life. I mean, I can't tell you how many 24-year-olds tell me they want to work from home. I'm like, you're going to work from home? You live with 4 guys and a walk-up. I mean, how are you going to work from home? I mean, you know, how can you get anything done? I mean, you got half your roommates are unemployed and watching TV all day. So there's a disconnect where they feel like, you know, I want to work from home, I want quality of life, I want 3 weeks vacation, I want to be out the door at 4 o'clock, and you have to reach those people in a different way. Gen Xers, our whole management style is tell us what to do, get out of our hair, leave us alone, and we'll get it done. Millennials, which this could actually work in your favor, you know, they got the 8th place trophy. You know, they want to know I'm serious. They want to know not just on a quarterly basis that they're doing well. They want to know on an hourly basis. You know, these are the employees that are going to come in and go, how did I do today? So you can micromanage the heck out of these people. You can sit there and tell them you're great or you're bad, or let's talk about you and your feelings and what you're doing. So you're going to have to spend more time with them, but they're going to actually appreciate that type of engagement. So it goes back to, like I said, about strong leaders. If you could talk about getting that type of hands-on coaching and leadership, that could win the hearts and minds of some of these folks. That, and they want to be promoted in 2 months to vice president of sales. So that's a different story, but you know, I can't help you there. But they do have some different drivers than other demographic groups have had. All right, I guess that's it. Thank you.